Happy Friday, stitching friends. My name's Caroline. Welcome back. Another Stitch With Me video today. I'm recording this quite late in the afternoon today. I'm cutting it a little fine to have this video up by 6 o'clock, which is the normal start of our Friday off the grid Stitch With Me. Well, it's not a Stitch With Me party, but a Friday stitching party that anyone is welcome to join in. And if you're interested in playing along with the fun, then you can join us over on the Facebook group, Friday Off the Grid, where we post progress pictures on Friday night, where we start. And then hopefully most Fridays that we can manage it, we try to put in as many hours of stitching as we can on the Friday evening and then share progress pictures at the end of the evening as well. I often will post, when I do post, because it's tough for me because I like to share, I like to overshare. It's probably one of the reasons why I got into FlossTube, is that I love to chat about stitching, but I like to save some things for Monday FlossTube. So if I share everything on the Facebook group, then sometimes I feel like I don't have sort of a surprise to share with you on Monday. So I encourage everybody else to share, and I try to share my starting point, or I'll talk about what I'm working on, and then watch the photos of everybody else's stitching roll in, and it's a great group to belong to. So that's the Friday Off the Grid group on Facebook. Okay, so today is Friday, October the 11th. Tomorrow is my 23rd wedding anniversary. Mental note to myself. It has been a week. It has really been a very topsy-turvy week with so many things going on. And so I had mentioned that I thought I might work on my twisted band sampler for the Stitch With Me video, but this is one of the first chances I'm getting down for some stitching time this week, and I was craving some comfort today. So I think we all are drawn to our stitching for a way to comfort ourselves, self-soothe. It's kind of sometimes the perfect antidote to a bad day, stressful day. Just, you need some time to decompress and unwind. And all week long, this was kind of the piece that was at the back of my mind, that, if I'd had 5 or 10 minutes to sit down and stitch, this is what I would want to work on, because it takes very little thought. The colors speak to me. It's bright, it's cheerful, it's geometric, which appeals to my taste. I love, geometric designs. So, and I think that, we don't have to all like the same things, because this is very specific. This is not everybody's cup of tea, but it certainly is what I'm drawn to when I just need a little bit of self-soothing. So this is the Landmark Tapestries and Charts Sevan from the Tapesta Pillow Collection. These charts are hard to find. The one place that I always recommend you look is www.celtichobbies.com. And I have zero time to edit this video today. This is going to be just a really true Stitch With Me, where I'm just going to chat and stitch, and then I'm going to upload it almost immediately, or else I'm going to miss my own 6 o'clock start time tonight for Friday Off the Grid. And I've been looking forward to this all week. I am ready to go. And this is, sitting down to record this video is kind of the start of me being able to really relax and enjoy the rest of this holiday weekend. It's a holiday weekend here in Canada. I am in London, Ontario, Canada, and it is Thanksgiving weekend here. For those of you around the world who don't know, we celebrate Thanksgiving almost an entire 6 weeks earlier than our American friends to the south. So it's Thanksgiving weekend, and we have big plans. We have huge turkey dinner coming up this weekend where I'm feeding a lot of people. So I've been looking forward to this time of my day on this Friday because I have no more. I've done some work today. I've gotten my work done. I had a doctor's appointment earlier today, and it's time to stitch and relax and enjoy some time with my boys. John and Nicholas will be home with me this evening, so I suspect we'll probably watch some Great British Bake Off, maybe a few more episodes of MasterChef. We still haven't finished season 11, so no spoilers, please. And I know there's in fact, I know what the big thing is that's happened on MasterChef this year. I'm not going to say anything so I don't spoil it for anybody else in case you're also, 10 months behind watching MasterChef like we are. But we know about it. We're not happy about it. But there you go. Things happen. So, yeah, this week. So I was really, really hoping. It's on Monday I mentioned that I would have a surprise this week and that I'd tell you all about it on Friday. Well, those of you who follow me on Instagram, now I'm going to move my stitching into place so that it is where I'm going to be working for the duration of this video, which is, I thought it would be nice and simple for me just to work on this fill-in here. This is DMC 797, that beautiful dark blue, almost like a cornflower blue, isn't it? It's beautiful. So I'm going to get my needle in, anchored and ready to go. I mentioned on Monday that I would have some news on the personal front and that I would be talking about it on Friday. Those of you who follow me on Instagram, I have 2 accounts on Instagram. One is my page for the bag business, which is at Evertotes. And then I have a more personal Instagram feed, which is at Off the Grid Needlearts. And I have already shared this information over on that Instagram page, so many of you will know the tale I'm about to tell because it sort of played itself out on Instagram Wednesday and Thursday morning. So many of you guessed, I'm sure, that we were in the process of adopting another dog. And I'm gonna fast forward to the very end of the story and then I'll fill you in on the details. The end of the story is quite sad because this dog unfortunately did not work out for our family. And we had to, the rescue organization had to send the people back to come and pick up the dog on Thursday morning and take him back. So that's the beginning and the end of the worst, really the worst part of my week. And it's a hard story to tell because, I'm sure there's going to be some judgment about, from people who maybe don't understand all of the ins and outs of it. And it's impossible for me to relay and remember to relay every single detail that happened during the situation. But in a nutshell, we had found a dog who fit what we were looking for in a family pet, a large breed, and he was a mix. He was a mix of lab and American bulldog, and his name was Sully. So the rescue's description of Sully said that he was good with cats, which I liked for not my cat, Sasha, and he was good with other dogs, but needed to go into a home with older children, so not young kids, because his only bad habit was that he was a jumper. So he would jump up on people when he would greet them and, give kisses. And he was a big boy. So the concern was that he was completely capable and would most likely knock over any small children. So they wanted him in a home that had older children, and that would be fine. Well, my kids are older. Nicholas is very tall, like his dad, and we're all used to big dogs, and we've always adopted. We haven't had a puppy since we were first married. We have always adopted older dogs. Daria was 5 when we adopted her, and Eddie was 8. He was a rescue. Daria came from a breeder. She was their adult dog, and they wanted her. They knew the best thing for her would be to be with a family, so that she could be a single person, a single dog in a family, because they were also a rescue for Bernese mountain dogs. So again, I'm talking about where Daria came from, not where Sully came from. So Daria, when we were looking for a dog, we found her through, actually, I think it was through a dog trainer that we'd found this farm that had these dogs, and they were looking to home her out into a family so that she could receive the attention that she really was craving, because she really was much more a person dog rather than a dog. So she didn't really care about all the other dogs that were on the farm. She just always wanted human contact, and her owners didn't feel like she was getting, her needs weren't being met. So she was actually just over 5 years old when we adopted Daria. So we haven't had a puppy in ages. We've always adopted older dogs. And so this sort of fit what we were looking for. We were looking for a dog who needed a home. And the rest of the story with Sully was that he was being adopted through a rescue organization, but he actually wasn't your sort of typical rescue case. He was actually he was a rehoming situation, because his owner, he still does. He's gone back to his owner. His owner was a senior lady who had adopted him right from day one from a puppy, and she had a heart attack. I don't know when she had the heart attack, but I do know that Sully, he's now 3, and he is a very big boy, and he's an extremely active boy. So she could no longer, give him appropriate activity. He's very strong, and she wasn't even able to walk him anymore. So she wanted to do the best thing for Sully, and so her neighbors had been helping her care for the dog, and they weren't able to take in Sully because they had a lot of cats of their own. I think they had something like 4 or 5 cats. So they weren't able to take in Sully. So she asked her neighbors to help her find a new home for him. So that's the story of how it came about that he was up for adoption, and not a rescue, but actually coming from a home where he had been his entire life. And she adored him. She does. She adores him. This is not past tense. Sully is a well-beloved pet, and his owner was devastated that she had to give him up. And apparently she kept, changing her mind, and she would say, oh, yes, please, I need help finding him a home. And then she'd call them back and say, no, I've changed my mind. And it got to a point where she knew she had to find him a home. So we met him. That was where we were when we were coming home from the cottage last Sunday. We stopped and met the neighbors, and met Sully, and we met Brenda, and we took Sully for a walk, and he was magnificent. He was truly magnificent, and we fell in love with him. And so we agreed that yes, this is the perfect dog for us. and we had already filled out the application form because that's why they had said, yes, you can go and meet him. We think you're a good family for him. And so then we went home on Sunday and we waited for them to tell us when we could have him, because the way it works is they then bring the dog to you to make sure, you are who you say you are and that you have an appropriate space for the dog, for the animal. So it was actually the owner's neighbors who were helping rehome him. So they agreed to work with the rescue and they drove him to our house. So they arrived late on Wednesday evening. It was probably about almost 8 o'clock, I think, 8 o'clock at night. And Sully was very excited. He has not spent a lot of time in a car. So he was keyed up from the drive, which was normal. So we met a very excited, keyed up dog, which we were completely prepared for. We all went for a little walk down the road, and then we all came back and brought all of his things inside. Now, his owner had packed up every single one of Sully's possessions. And I mean, we're talking bagfuls of toys, a bed, a blanket, even the folding chair that he liked to sit on outside in her backyard. She had sent that along as well. And, it was a little heartbreaking. I knew she'd probably spent the day in tears, and I was just, it was hard. It was really sad. But we were excited to welcome him into the family, and she'd sent a bucket load of treats and food and cookies and all kinds of stuff, and he was highly food motivated. So then the neighbors left, and Sully knew them really well because I gather that they live behind the owner's house, so they share a fence. So they're very used to him, and he knew them extremely well. They were the ones who were walking him on a daily basis, so he knew them really well. About 5 minutes after they left, he got really quiet, and he growled at Nicholas. When Nicholas is not an aggressive, loud, noisy kid. He reached out his hand to pet Sully, and Sully growled at him. So we said, okay, he's nervous. You need to leave him alone. You need to go and find something else to do. Let him decompress. Let him get used to the house. And he's scared. So just, back away, give him some space. And you can try again later when mommy and daddy tell you. I know he's older, but we still say mommy and daddy. I know. Mom and dad. How's that? Make him sound a little more mature. He'd kill me if I told you that he still calls us that. We said, we'll tell you when it's okay for you to approach him again, but you need to wait for us to tell you. And so we gave him his space, and then I was going past him, and I decided to give him a treat, and he growled at me. And not just growled at me, but he snapped a little bit at my hand. So I thought, okay. And I backed off, and then we waited a little bit, and then we decided, before bedtime, we were going to take him for a walk. And we left Nicholas, he's old enough to stay at home by himself for a little bit. So John got his leash on, and we took him for a walk around the neighborhood, and he did really well. And then when we got home, he growled at me again. And so I just let him have his space. And these are the kinds of things that you kind of expect. But I was starting to think, okay, well, I don't really love the growling and the snapping, but he's scared, he's anxious, and okay, we can, we'll just give him some time, give him some space. He's scared. And then later that night after, so before we were all getting, I split this. Shoot. Got it. Before we were, going to go to bed, he still hadn't gone to the bathroom. He hadn't gone to the bathroom on our walk. So we said, he's had a fair bit to drink. We need to try and get him to go outside and go to the bathroom. And that's kind of when everything really, really fell apart, because he didn't want to go. Now, he's part bulldog, and they're very stubborn. They're known for their stubbornness, but he decided he was not going anywhere. And so he managed to pull himself. Now, you have to remember that because he was a bit growly and a bit snappy, we had attached the leash. No, it was me. I attached the leash on the top of his harness, where, like, the way that the body harness worked was that there was a loop at the front on the chest, and then there were two metal loops, tabs at the back where the thing snaps together. And so I had the lead at the top because I didn't want to, anytime I put my hands near his face, he growled at me. So I didn't want to, purposefully antagonize him. So I put the lead on the back loops so that I didn't have to put my hands near his face. I put my hands, on his back, and he seemed okay with that. So I put the lead on, but he didn't want to go outside, and he did not want to go outside. And he ended up pulling himself out backwards from the harness. So, and I mean, it was that he got a bit wild. That's, we were not overly crazy. We were not going to force this dog to do anything, but he was so unhappy about having the leash on, he just pulled himself out backwards through it. And then we're kind of like, all right then, what do we do now? Because we can't take him outside. See, that's the other thing. The other thing is that we had told the rescue that part of our fence there's one part of our fence that is not closed in. And I had put that right on the application that there was one spot that was open, but that we had a weekend set aside within the next 6 weeks to have it closed in, and that until that point, Sully would not be off the leash unless we were at a dog park where it was fully closed in, where he could go and be off lead. And so, I was very upfront about that, and they knew we didn't have that there was that issue with the fence. So we had to have this harness on him. It wasn't a question of yes or no. The harness had to be on him in order for us to be able to take him outside safely and not lose him. So he pulled himself out of the harness, and then we had to get the harness back on him. So we left him alone for a few minutes. It was longer than a few minutes. We really tried to be patient and wait. So we waited 15, 20 minutes, and then we tried to get the harness on him again. And he bit John. So now he did not break it. He did not break the skin of John's hands. But it was definitely I'm terrified, and he lashed out. And I'm going to just say right up front, Sully is not an aggressive, mean dog. No way, not a chance. This dog was petrified. He was so scared, and that was his instinct. His instinct was to protect himself because he did not know what the heck was going on. He was terrified, and you can't blame the dog for that. We don't blame this. None of this is Sully's fault. None of this is anybody's fault. He has not been away from his owner a day of his whole life. He has, she lived in a small 1-floor house. We have a 2-story. The people that brought him said that her house is very small. Our house might have felt, very overwhelming for him. He didn't know us at all. We were completely foreign to him. And he just happened to be a dog that has extreme canine separation anxiety. And that was his way of saying, I'm really scared. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. And, here's the thing. If you can recognize this is where things get a little bit, where you feel like people might judge you. Both sides. Some people might say dogs shouldn't bite. You need to put that dog down. Other people would say, that kind of what I'm saying, the dog was scared. It's not the dog's fault. Training. Which is the side that John and I would agree with, in this case. Every dog is different. Every interaction is different. And unless you're in the situation yourself, it's really hard to pass judgment on what happens. So, in this particular case, Sully is not a mean, aggressive dog. He was just absolutely beside himself. And, we started to think, they did tell us that he's terrified of thunderstorms. He hates thunderstorms. He hates fireworks. And that's not unusual. Most dogs, lots of dogs, are scared of fireworks and thunderstorms. And that's okay. But if this is his reaction to anxiety, or fear of the unknown of different situations, what happens if one of Nicholas's friends come over and they're not used to dogs and they do something that we don't catch to Sully and he bites them? Well, you know what happens then? The dog has to be put down because the parents of the child are so upset, and rightfully so. You should expect that your child is safe at a friend's house. You should have that expectation. That's how things go, right? So the dog would, it puts the dog at risk. It puts the kids at risk, and you just can't risk it. And unfortunately, no one knew that Sully, that his anxieties were this serious. No one knew. So it's no one's fault. It's not the rescue's fault. It's not our fault. It's not the dog's fault. So we messaged the rescue. We texted her, the woman who was organizing our particular adoption. We texted her at 12:30 in the morning and left a message and said, this is what's happening, and we really don't think that we can keep him because we're concerned, and we think that he needs to go to a home where there are no kids, period, like 18 plus, and maybe even a single person, like one person, because I think lots of stimuli is overwhelming to him, and he just needs something different, and he needs gentle, long-term interaction with his new family or person. And that's the only way that he's going to accept new people. So I think I've told you everything. I think I've told you the whole story. It did not work out the way I was hoping, because I'll tell you, bless his heart, he was an amazing dog. And truly, when the neighbors came back, so the owner's neighbors, when they drove back all the way to pick him up again on Thursday morning. They were so kind. And as soon as Sully saw them, he turned right back into the dog that we'd met. Even though he was still in our kitchen, as soon as he saw them, he just blossomed right back into this loving, jumpy, happy dog. And he was so happy to see them. And it was a little heartbreaking, because that's the dog that we were, hoping for. And if it wasn't for the biting, we would have definitely have kept him. And if it wasn't also for the fact that there are kids in our house, in and out. Clara's in our house. My niece Clara. I mean, she's little. She's just little still. You know, she comes for Christmas and holidays and stuff. It's just you just can't take the chance. So Sully has gone back to his owner, and they are working on finding him a new home. And I still don't have a dog. So there you have it. That's my story. So no dog for us. We're taking a little break from even looking. Maybe in a few weeks we'll try again. So we'll see. There's definitely a hole in our hearts and our home for a dog, and we'll find our dog. He or she is out there somewhere. We saw an 11-year-old lab that I was trying to convince John that we should get, but he was a little too far away from us, and it would have been a difficult relocation. But anyways, I highly recommend the adoption of senior pets. There's a lot of sirens going on outside. Senior pets rock. The only problem with senior pets is that they don't live with you for long enough. You don't have them for long enough. But it is one of the most rewarding things you can do, is to give a senior pet a home so that they can live out their last few years in comfort and care. Oh my goodness. I'm going to just pause this for a minute. Okay, there we go. Took a long time for that siren to go past. Yes, adopting senior pets. Highly recommend it. It will bring you so much joy to provide a home of comfort for the last few years, so that a senior dog can have a spoiled existence instead of the last few years at a shelter. Now, because we are so close to having lost Daria and also Eddie, we only had for 3 years. The next dog that we're looking for, we're hoping that we find one that will have a little bit longer with us. But then probably the dog, our next dog, will be a super senior dog. They're awesome. Okay, so so that was the dog saga. Saga of Sully. Poor Sully. Poor Sully. Such a lovely boy. Anyway, so that was a bummer for sure, I'll tell you that. That was a real bummer. So the other bummer to my week is my health. Got some health stuff going on. And I'm going to spare you the gory details, but if you've ever had problems with your gallbladder, that's where I'm headed with this. So it would seem that my gallbladder has decided to act up. And I wasn't sure. I'm still not positive. I'm not 100% sure it's my gallbladder, but I did go to the doctor today. My doctor, all of the symptoms fit. And so I have some various medical appointments over the next little while in order to see what's going on and hopefully figure out what to do moving forward. But that does mean that for the next little while, my diet is going to be very, 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 very boring. Oh, this is only one thread. I need 2. I'll just double that up. So yes, if you've ever dealt with gallbladder issues, you'll know that it's not exactly a picnic. It hurts when it happens. And so it's been a challenging week, my friends. But now, at least, I think I figured out what was causing it. Because I'll tell you, on Tuesday, I thought I was having a heart attack. But fortunately figured out it wasn't a heart attack. attack. Not that I went to the hospital or anything. I figured it wasn't, but do you know what I mean, right? Everything goes through your mind. What on earth is happening to me? And so it, better make sure I call my mother and tell her what's going on before I put this video up. My poor mother. I was talking to her the other day, and I didn't tell her because well, first of all, Mom, I didn't want to worry you. That's why I didn't tell you right away. But I will call you and tell you about it before I put this video up so that you don't hear about it on FlossTube. So yeah, the doctor says it sounds like classic gallbladder stuff. And basically I just need to be very careful with what I eat for the next little while so that if I want to avoid feeling how I felt, and then we will have further testing done and figure out where to go from here. So sorry about that. Phone just rang. We've been getting an awful lot of scam calls on our cell phones lately. Have you guys been getting those? They are incredibly annoying. I mean, it's some recording of a, it's like a robocall saying, if you do not push one or call our such and such line, you will be hauled before the magistrate. And it's like, first of all, I don't live in the States. This is, they're threatening to, I don't know, do something to me in the States, and I'm a Canadian citizen. They're just so clearly scam calls. And then you think, poor people who, maybe senior citizens who get these phone calls, or maybe they receive one and it would absolutely cause them to panic. And I just think that's awful. I mean, what a terrible way to try to scam somebody. Poor person going to give them a heart attack. Terrible. Anyways, I think that's what that was. I don't tend to answer my phone anymore if I don't recognize the phone number. Oh, well, my friends, this was not the happy, sort of lighthearted, funny podcast you were expecting today. Hopefully it wasn't upsetting to anyone, what I had to talk about today. I don't think many people would disagree with me that Sully just wasn't going to work with our family. But, it's people are funny sometimes. They'll think certain things about other people. I'm sure we've all done it at one point or the other. So yeah, it's been a bit of a week, and I can't tell you how nice it's been to sit here and be able to talk about it. So thank you. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you. All my FlossTube friends. And I think with that, I'm going to bid you adieu and say happy Thanksgiving to my Canadian friends. And don't worry, American friends, your Thanksgiving will be right around the corner. You know what, guys? It's going to be Christmas time before we know it. This year has, I think, for us, for John and I, this year has gone the fastest of any year on record that I can remember. It has absolutely flown by. Crazy, crazy year. Can you see I'm going to just keep talking until I finish this thread? I'm desperate to finish this thread and just end my needle here. Oh, I love stitching this piece. It is like it's like taking a deep breath. And I know you know that feeling. I don't have to explain it. It's like that deep breath of, that's better. That's better. Everything feels a little bit better now. And I appreciate you being here to visit with me. So I will say goodbye. And I also will not be putting out a video on Monday. Monday is a holiday here in Canada, and I will be celebrating. I will be spending time with my family. But I do plan to put out a FlossTube video on Tuesday. So I will be one day late next week, but I still have lots to share. So I want to make sure that I get a video up on Tuesday next week. All right. That's it for me. to, no, I'll tell you about that on Tuesday. I'll keep you in suspense. That's it for me. Look at that. I got some progress there. Just a little bit more and I'll fill that in tonight. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on, maybe I'll just keep working in this section. Nice to see some of that get filled in. Okay. Happy weekend. And I will see you. Happy stitching. And I'll see you next week. Take care.